everyone, thanks for joining me today. My name is Tandiwe Moreau and this is my channel. We are talking about beginner basics in photography for all of you who are aspiring photographers or photographers who have just begun your journey. If this is your first time visiting my channel, please hit the subscribe button below. If it's not your first time, thank you for your continued support. Now, today we're going to be talking about one of the things I use almost every time I'm shooting, which is flash. And I'm going to give you just a general introduction to your flash and how you can use it. There's different modes you can use it in. So we're gonna jump right in. Today, as my model, I have the Nikon SB700. Some of you may be using different flashes, so don't worry about it. Whatever flash you use, what I speak about today should apply very easily. I bought this off Amazon and I'll provide a link in the description box below. It cost me about $33,000, but there are more affordable options available and I'll provide links to those in the description box below. The most popular here being the Yongnuo flashes. Again, description box to find out where you can get those. Now, I usually use my flash when I'm shooting in a low light situation. So that could be a situation where it's really dark at night and I need to light my subjects, or I'm shooting my subjects and they're standing with the sun behind them, so that behind them is really bright but they're in shadow and I need to bring some light to the front of the images. I most often use the technique of filling in the shadow in front of my subject when I'm shooting weddings. So there's two modes on your flash that you need to know about. Your flash can shoot either in manual mode or TTL mode. The difference being, in manual mode, your flash is making all the decisions about its power independently of your camera. So you make all the decisions. But in TTL mode, it's more like auto mode, where you tell your flash, decide the power you're going to use for this image using the camera sensor. So it's picking up information from your camera to make decisions about how powerful it should be. So DSLRs are really intelligent machines, but sometimes they do make mistakes. So what happens in a situation where you've put your flash on TTL mode, but you feel like your subject is just not bright enough, so the flash is not strong enough? So you can use something called exposure compensation in your TTL mode, and you'll see it as a plus or minus sign with a number and EV in your flash. So let's say my image is just slightly too dark and I want my flash to increase its power just by a bit. I can change my flash from 0.0 EV to either 0.3 EV, 0.7 EV, or +1 EV. And that's just telling the camera how much brighter you want the flash to be, but it's still going to be using your camera sensor to determine the original base level of the flash. Again, if your camera for some reason makes the flash too strong, you can make the EV negative, meaning you're telling your flash, even if the camera has told you this is a correct setting, reduce your power by a little bit, so be less strong so that you're not flooding the image with too much light. So just to quickly recap, EV stands for exposure compensation. So if you're on the positive side of EV, it means you're telling the flash to increase its power to be a bit higher than what the camera thinks it should be. If you're on the negative numbers of your EV, so anything below 0, it means you're telling your flash to have slightly less power than the camera is telling it to have. Now, I know it's really confusing. Why would somebody call exposure compensation EV? I don't know. I didn't decide the names, but that's just what it's called. Now, if you're using your flash in manual mode, you can also control the power of the flash, because here you're making all the decisions regarding how powerful you think your flash should be. And manual mode measures the power of your flash as a fraction of the full power it can be. So full power is 1. So your flash could be a quarter power, an eighth power, or half the power. So Kangai asked me a really funny question. She asked, does the bulb in the flash, she asked, does the bulb in the flash run out? So no, this is not like a strobe or other artificial lighting where you can replace the flash itself. It should never run out. Your flash is actually powered by normal AA batteries. There we go. If you want to see my video on the batteries that I use for my flash, you can click on this link or use the link in the description box below. I also forgot to mention that I talked about using flash a bit in my video about shooting in low light, so you can find that link in the description box. So how do you know if you're using your flash correctly? How do you know what the right power is? I usually use an acronym of the word PAID. So PAID to determine the power of my flash. P stands for power, so that's the actual power that's coming out of the flash. That is the manual mode or TTL mode setting that you put. And then the A stands for your aperture, the I stands for your ISO, and the D stands for the distance between you and your subject. So back to our acronym of PAID, the A stands for aperture, and why it's important to know how aperture relates to your flash is because aperture controls your artificial light. That is your flash or your strobes. Any light that's not your flash or your strobes is referred to as natural light. So the bigger the diameter of the hole in your lens, that is, if your f-stop is f2.8, f1.2, or even smaller, the stronger your flash will appear in the pictures, even without changing the flash's power. The opposite of that is the smaller the diameter of the hole in your lens, so the bigger the number of your aperture, f22, f11, f16, it means the less the power or the brightness of the flash in your picture. So this is really helpful information in a scenario where, let's say, you're shooting on manual mode and your flash is at full power, or you're shooting on TTL mode and your flash is on full power, and your picture is still not bright enough. What I would do in a scenario like that is actually move my f-stop to a smaller number. So I'll move from f4.5, for example, to f2.8, and my picture will become instantly brighter anywhere where my flash is hitting my subject. Your ISO, which is the I in the PAID acronym, also contributes to how your flash appears in pictures. So the higher your ISO, or the higher your sensor's sensitivity to light, the brighter the flash will look in your pictures. So again, the same situation where you may feel that your flash is just not powerful enough and it's at full power, you should move your ISO higher up. So move from ISO 400, for example, to ISO 800, and that should help brighten up your pictures. Though you must remember, as I talked about in my video about ISO, which is in the description box below, the higher your ISO, the more noise in your pictures. So there's a trade-off here between wanting your picture more bright and reducing the noise in the picture. The last letter in our acronym is D, which stands for distance. Now this one's pretty obvious. The closer you are to your subject, the brighter your flash is going to be. As you move back, your flash, even if the power remains the same, is going to be less and less bright. So a general rule here when using flash is, if you want your flash to remain the same brightness, but you need to move away from your subject, you must increase the power of your flash. I know it's a little confusing, but that's referred to as the inverse square law of light. So using your power, that is the actual amount of light coming out of your flash, your aperture, your ISO, and the distance between you and your subject, you can control how bright or dark your pictures are in regards to your flash. One of the challenges I ran into when using flash, despite knowing the acronym PAID, is that I would use my flash and my subject would be beautifully exposed, but the area behind them would be completely black. And this could be in a situation where they're, for example, in a room where there's a lot of lamps or lights, so there was beautiful light behind them, but in my picture you can't see any of that. I quickly learned that it's your shutter speed that will control that. Remember how I spoke about artificial and natural light? Well, this is a scenario where your artificial light is well balanced, but your natural light isn't. So to make the background of your images visible when using flash, you need to slow down your shutter speed. That means that the shutter is open for longer, so more light can come into your image from the bulbs and the ambient light behind your subject to make the picture look more balanced. The last thing I want to talk about today is using modifiers with your flash. So when you buy your flash, it comes like this. And initially when I started using it, I felt like my flash's light was a bit too harsh. I also bought a diffuser for my flash. And this is what the diffuser looks like. It's just a thick piece of plastic that is slightly see-through. And as I use a diffuser with my flash, what I realized was because the plastic is so thick, it effectively reduces the power of the light coming out of my flash, which is not very desirable, especially if you're shooting large groups or you need a very powerful flash. I learned that your flash actually comes with its own built-in diffuser, which, if it comes out, is over here. Yay. All right, so this diffuser, you can actually just drop it over the front of your flash, and that will help reduce the harshness of the flash. Alternatively, you can use what's called a bounce card, which is this white kind of piece of plastic over here. And what the bounce card does is, usually when you use your flash, you don't want to point it towards your subject. That gives you very harsh light. You want to point it up, away from your subject. So I've pointed mine up and slightly away from my subject. And the bounce card makes sure that no light hits my subject directly. That the light either has to go through the card or around the card, and that makes it much softer and much nicer on the skin than just shooting with your flash like this. Now, this trick is really helpful when you shoot in a place with a white ceiling. If you see a white ceiling, you just know that you're going to have a really easy time using your flash, because the white ceiling acts as a really huge bounce card. So your flash is going to hit the ceiling and then it's going to reflect back down and be very soft and beautiful on the faces of your subjects. When I'm shooting weddings, I'm always looking for white ceilings to use. Thanks for watching this video all the way through to the end. If this is your first time visiting my channel, thank you for coming. Please hit the subscribe button below to get more videos that I've made for beginners every Monday and Thursday. If it's not your first time visiting my channel, thank you for your continued support. If you're a professional photographer, please contribute to the conversation and let us know in the comment section below when you use flash, what mode you like using your flash in, and kind of the position you use your flash in to get the best result in your pictures. As always, any gear that is mentioned in this video has a link to Amazon in the description box below, so you know where to get it. Please give the video a thumbs up if you liked what you saw. If this is not your first time on my channel, thank you for allowing me to walk your photography journey with you. You can also drop me comments and questions on Facebook, Instagram, and Snapchat, or on my website, www.tandiwemoyo.com. Links to all of those in the description box below. For now, that's it. See you guys next time.